of 2021, if not a little bit beyond. No vaccine is coming to save us. No, while it will help, there's no doubt. There's no vaccine necessarily coming to save us. And we have to figure out what life is going to be like in this environment so that we can meet the needs of the post-pandemic, the post-COVID world. So we're going to our new format. I know we had a little Zoom problem where it crashed on us. So we're letting people in as they come. We're admitting them in. So Julia, you'll continue to do that. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about the President's Council, how it started, and we have a few people from the President's Council on today to talk about what it's like to be on and be part of a meeting like this. And so Harris has joined us. Dan, you've joined us. I see Scott's on. Hang in there, guys. We'll get our part going shortly. And we'll join everybody else as they come in. President Shafi, President Peliquin, President Patania, and Rick Hague. I did not know you also went to the University of Delaware, as I did. I did not realize that. So we're both from the same place. I see Joey's on. Joey, welcome. Mr. President Wilson, President Schneider, President Lewis. Thanks, guys, for coming on. So let me start. I'll get the first part started with we call it the bit of the opening monologue and the where are we now sort of thing. What's the latest and greatest? And after last night's presidential debate, I don't know how I could top that, but I will see what I can do my best. Bad thing. Very good. All right. So this is, I want to play off of the theme that we had from last week. And I'm not asking you to read all this, but for the sake of our recording, because we record this, I'm giving you some pieces of an article that I wrote some time ago about how to inspire others when you feel uninspired. So this was an article I wrote for Forbes some time ago. And one of the things that we have been dealing with a lot in our business is CEO fatigue. The pandemic has caused a lot of strain and has put a lot of pressure on people. And so as the CEO, as the owner, as the founder, you might find yourself, you certainly find yourself in one of the toughest and loneliest positions in business. But you have likely, if you run a small to medium sized company, have been, the head cook, lead bottle washer. You've been doing everything because you may have had to furlough a couple of people, and you've been working double or triple hard just to keep the lights on, keep the clients going, and keep the kind of move the chains, as you would say. So now we're getting post-pandemic. People are coming back to work. Indoor dining is back. Indoor recreation is coming back. I'm not so sure mass gatherings are going to be much of a thing for the next few months, but they will slowly work their way back, likely starting in the new year. And by this time next year, you might likely, in parts of the country at least, see mass gatherings. I know Florida has announced that they will have a full Super Bowl in Tampa this year. So we'll see if that materializes. And the governor announced it. Well, let's see how the NFL deals with that. But as the leader in your business, you have to inspire others that might not feel inspired at the time. And you have to take them through that. Jason will tell you with the launch of his website, he had to drive the energy for 20 some odd people who were like, this ain't happening. How are we going to do this? There's no way. Right. So, hey, Jason. Hey, Magda. So, you have found yourself in that position before. And these are the sort of times where we're seeing the owners are, really reaching deep into the well in order to be able to inspire and motivate others. Right. And I used to give this class for Tony Robbins's Mastery University years ago. And I used to give a class, which is the difference between inspiration and motivation. What's the difference? And my analysis of it, my looking at it was motivation is much more of an external emotion. It's a much more external dynamic. In other words, somebody outside of me, external to me, has to motivate me. Right? And they will motivate me directly. They will motivate me by patting me on the back, kicking me in the ass. Hey, Anna. And they will, I'm going to have to push and drive them. Motivation is the push. How do I motivate you and push you into action? And then inspiration is something that you derive internally. That's the pull. If I notice something in somebody else, if I notice an attribute or I see something that I like or something that I aspire to be, I might be inspired by that. And that might want me to take more action because of the experience share, because of the me observing you. And so motivation and inspiration, I've always found to be a fascinating topic because you can continue to try to motivate others, which is part of your job, but it will be much more long-term sustainable if you can inspire them. So we're going to talk a little bit about both of those, then we're going to get onto our panel. All right. So like I said, we have dealt with a lot of CEO fatigue. It's one of the main things that we deal with in our practice, but it is very prevalent right now. And I know some of us have had this conversation where you get on the phone and you're like, I know it's Monday morning and I'm supposed to have some juice for this week, but I'm whipped. Right. And so you're starting that day or that week the tank a little empty. So we got to put something in that tank. So, all right. So here are a quick technique on how to do that. So how do you fill others' tanks when yours is empty? Well, the first thing we have to do is make sure that you have a clear mission and vision. We did a survey of 435 businesses, and these businesses, by and large, with very few exceptions, all had at least $1 million in revenue or more, and about a third of them had 10 million or more. And so these are the 4% of companies, and in some cases the 0.4% of companies. And we asked them, do you have a clear mission and vision? We surveyed them and we surveyed their team. And here's what we found out. 23.7% of businesses actually agreed, strongly agree, we have a clear mission and vision statement. Right? Now think about that for a minute. You either know where you're going or you're not. You either know that, I'm getting in the car, we're going on vacation. Where are you going on vacation? Well, we partially agree on where we're going on vacation. If you partially agree on where you're going on vacation, do you know where you're going on vacation? Yeah, not likely. Yeah, that's a no. All right, you might think so, but you haven't checked it with everybody else and you don't know where you're going yet on vacation. So in this question, there's yes, and then there's everything else. And so what was interesting is, if you're thinking, how am I going to motivate? How am I going to drive my team? And you are not sure about where is the mission and the vision of this business, how can you drive them to a destination? How can you inspire them by where you're headed? Because if you're meandering, that's not going to inspire. And how are you going to motivate them and drive them to a destination when you're not sure what it is? All right. So let's do a little bit of work on that. I'll give you a couple of tips on that, and then we're going to come back to that. So number one is, let's figure out. We want to figure out how we are going to let our team know that they are on track and part of the vision. So I know many of you that are on this call, you may have a clear mission and vision, and maybe it's between your ears, or maybe you've actually written it down, but it's not into the culture yet for many of you. They don't know what it is. If I were to call up your employees and ask them, what is it? They would not know. They would not know what to say, and they certainly wouldn't be able to recite it. Okay, but here's one of the ways that you can get that back into the culture. All right, so revisit what work you have done before. If you haven't done, or you do not have a clear mission and vision that you're comfortable with, we'll send you the template so you can revisit it and you can work on that. A couple of exercises that will help you get there. But I'm going to assume for a moment that you have it somewhere in your head, or you have it somewhere written down. We just need to share it. Okay, and so Here's how you share this with your team, and I would start with your key employees first. All right, let's go with the employees you want to keep the most, so they really buy in to your vision. Number one, so here are the 4 things that you say to your key team, and then eventually your whole team. Number one is, I love you. Here's what I love and respect about you as a person, as a team. Here, and shower them with genuine praise, big or small, about what you like about them. You're tenacious, you're consistent, you always have you always have the best and most sincere intentions for the business. You really are always putting the company first and yourself second. Okay, and be specific, very specific. You can say to them, "You're awesome," but they don't know what to do with that. You can't eat awesome. I don't know what to do with awesome. All right, thank you. Awesome. How'd I get to awesome? So tell me exactly how I got to awesome, and give me very specific feedback. What did you notice? What did you observe? And what are you seeing in me that is helping me build up to awesome? Number 2, let them know, here is where the business is going. Lay out your long-term plan for the business and the basic direction. Now, consider your audience. You don't have to. Here's what you wouldn't say. Hey guys, good news. We're offloading all the manufacturing to Vietnam, and you'll all either get to move to Asia or find new jobs. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow's huddle. That's not what you would say. But what you would say is, here is where the business is headed. We're looking to grow internationally. We're looking to launch another product line. We're going to franchise. We're going to bring on investment. We're going to partner up with this other company. Here's how I see it going over the next few years. Now, here's really all you'd have to do as it relates to putting, if you're thinking like, oh my God, this sounds like a lot of work. All you do is put today's org chart over this shoulder, tomorrow's org chart over this shoulder, and just say, and right now you've got all of the spots right now with all the names in it, and then all the spots that you occupy in the future, you leave those spots there, but you put a question mark, and your team will get it, because the next thing you're going to say is, there's a seat for every one of you on the bus. That's the third thing you're going to say. There's a seat for every one of you on the bus. All right. You'll have a mock-up of the future org chart with all of the future seats, and with you out of the org chart, you're going to have a little spot at the top that says chairman of the board or chairwoman of the board. Your name's going to be in it. Question marks in all the open boxes. Your team will get what you're talking about. And then the fourth thing is you're going to say, listen, I want to sit down with you one-on-one, and I'll talk to you about how I see you fitting into the plan. All right. That will go a long way to not only motivating them, right, but the fact that you've done this will be an inspiration for them. So these are the 4 inquiries that you share with your team to show them the vision. Okay. All right. Last couple things, and we'll move on. All right. Now, all you CEOs, we got to keep that daily inspiration routine strong, just like taking it to the gym. So not only do many of you go to the gym, I know that many of you have a serious workout routine, but what I would suggest you change is what is piping through your headphones. Right now, what's piping through your headphones might be music. It's possibly an audible book, and maybe, just maybe, a podcast. I would say maybe we change that a little bit. What I would suggest that you do is read out loud what your goals, what inspires you, how you define yourself, how you find yourself your way to awesome. Put that on your audio recorder and play that. Your goals and anything that inspires you, play that, pump that through your ears when you're working out every day, and remind yourself every day about what is inspirational for you, because your tank has to be full, even overflowing, as you hit the workday every day, because exercise is the only thing that works out body, mind, spirit at the same time. You can work out spirit, doesn't affect the body. You can work out the mind, doesn't affect the spirit and the body necessarily. But if you work out the body, you get all 3. So let's multiply that by doing your affirmations, your mantras, your incantations, your goals, favorite quotes, favorite music out loud. Make an inspirational tape for you, Elevate you, you elevate yourself. Okay. Last one. All right. Now, I can't tell you how many times we get the call where someone says, I want to grow. And then we sit down and 5 minutes later, they're like, yeah, I'd rather sell. Okay. If you have gone through these steps and you have figured out that, you know what, I'm not up for this fight. I'm just not up for it. And I got to tell you, it's not an age thing. In 1996, when I decided to sell my construction company, I was 30 years old. I was exhausted. I was exhausted. I decided to, at that time I knew something had to change. And it was in 2002, a few years later, I decided I got to sell this business. I got to get out. I'm not happy. I can't stay in this business. Right. And so I was, what was I then? I was 38 years old, but I was whipped. So I had to decide, was I going to step up in that construction company or step aside? And I decided I needed to step aside because there was something that was better, something more I'm passionate about that was waiting for me. Okay. So here's the deal. Every successful company and every successful CEO has sustained enthusiasm for the daily activities they perform. That's right. As much as that job you do every day that either you suck at or you think sucks, you still wake up every day and you're like, I'm willing to do this for a greater reward. Right? So you're still willing to file that paper or stop at the bank or do some BS task because you know it's leading to something greater. And the day you don't feel that, it's time for you to step aside. Either put somebody in your place or move on. All right. But what I wanted to introduce you all to something that was a real boost to me, and you may have heard it before. I'm going to go to gallery. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. We'll go to gallery, Julia. Come on, stop share. Here we go. Hang on, guys. My stop share button is not coming up. There we go. Now we're gallery view. All right. So Misters, do we have any madams? Do we have Darlene today? No, we don't have Darlene. So there are no madam. Well, there are madam presidents in the President's Council, but we have Misters President, Paul, Scott, John, Harris, Dan, Richard, Todd, Tom, Steve today. So I asked the President's Council, the EO New Jersey President's Council, to join us today because I wanted you all to think about what it would take to have this sort of group around you. I'm blessed to have these guys and ladies in my life, but these guys certainly today. And for all of you presidents in the President's Council, I shared with them the kind of the formation of our group in 2012 and 13 when I was president, how I told you guys the story about President Bush and how he worked with his father and Bill Clinton, who, by the way, the three were not getting along at the time, but they did it no questions asked. And when I was saying to a group before that, when on my phone, if I get a phone call during the day, there are three groups I will pick up the phone no matter what. One is my kids, one is my forum, and one is the President's Council. If another president calls, I pick up the phone, and there's it's a no questions asked. There is when they call and when I call them, I don't have to wonder, gee, I wonder if they'll help out. So just so you all know, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 12 of us. Last week, I said, hey, presidents, I'm putting on this call for the benefit of my clients. I want them to understand what being on a group like this is like. 10 out of 12 said, yes, I'll be there. No questions asked. They didn't even know what I was going to ask them at first. Here's what I need. And they said, no questions asked, I'm here. So I love the fact that I have this in my life. And for those of you on the call today, those of you listening to the recording, I want you to have this as well. And like I said, we do our Growth Academy twice a year. We have our strategy track for the owners, and we're going to build some of this in. But I wanted you guys to hear from them. You heard it from me, but I wanted you to hear from them what it's like, and we'll lead a little bit of a panel discussion over the next 20 minutes or so. So first off, thank you guys on short notice to take out time in your day. And what's funny is you heard me all say, Mr. President, because that's how we greet each other. We all had the experience. We all know what it's like. And we all know what it's like. We've all walked in the same shoes. So when I ask one of them about something, I don't have to explain how I'm feeling, what's my motivation, why am I thinking of this? They're like, Carl, I get it. I get it. You know? So we have a number of presidents on the line here. I'm not going to, I'll introduce and let you get to know them a little bit as we go. But Paul Lewis, since you were the first one to say that, yeah, I'm in. What do you need? I'll be there. Why don't you, when you first heard about the President's Council, when we first met, what were your thoughts about it? What were you hoping to get out of it? And what did you personally get from it?
Well, that's a great question, Carl. When you first introduced the concept to the group, I said, wow, this really does make sense. When you talked about the two Bush presidents talking to each other, and you said, I'm not coming to you as your son, I'm coming to you as the president of the United States, and I'm looking for your advice as a former president of the United States. That had an impact on me. And I think with this group, we all have experienced things that we can learn from each other, and we can have a better organization by sharing what we've experienced. So I thought it was fantastic, Carl.
Great, thanks. So the part of the experience sharing, and I want to acknowledge Dan Wilson, who came on, because Dan was the president before me. I want to acknowledge in EO the year before I want to acknowledge Dan for two things. Dan introduced the early handover, which shortened his presidency by 2 months and made mine 2 months longer. So I wanted to thank him for that, mastering his delegation skills. But one of the things before I started the council, I went to Dan and I said, and Dan had what in EO is called a rock star year. It was an award that you win if you hit certain milestones in the organization. And I said, and so Dan and I were talking. I was president elect, and I said to him, I want to hit rock star again next year. I want to keep the momentum going. What's one piece of advice you would give me? And he said, have presidents on your board, because they will have your back. He goes, if you want to hit rock star again, and this is where I learned from Dan. I said, cool. So you're going to be on my board, right? And he was like, shit, yeah, okay. All right. You got me back. So I'll be on that board. So Dan, if you would, like, that was one of the things that I learned from you and from being part of the council, but what is something that you've taken from the experience with the other presidents that you may have applied, that it has applied to you, or you've applied it in your business or in your life? Dan, you might be on mute. You can't delegate your answer. You'd have to actually do this one. Still can't hear you. Still can't hear. So, all right, we still don't have you. Okay, so he's not muted. Might be a problem with his mic. See, he's good at delegation. Right? He's like, I'm out of here. I'm not dealing with this. So John Chaffee, I had enlisted John the first year that I was on the board, and I put him into a position I didn't know anything about, membership, and he took it on and ran with it. But since then has been very active in not only the council but as president. So what were some of the things, John, that you may have experienced, or what did you take from being on the council? What's it been like for you?
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Let me start off by saying, when George Bush called me, he said, I'm not calling as a friend. I'm calling because you are a member of the President's Council of New Jersey, EO. So
that's right.
Just wanted to get that clear. So I immediately started to pay attention. It's funny, because in the beginning, I thought it was going to be a pain in the ass. I was busy. I was being asked to lead EO New Jersey, probably, right at a time when the business and the family was keeping really busy. But I knew it was a good time, so I decided to do it. And then when I had the first President's Council, I'm like, oh, now there's another group to be accountable for. There's another set of conversations another time. And it took me all of about 5 minutes to realize that the group comes together with nothing but genuine sincerity and caring for seeing you succeed in the role, and then also, of course, the chapter be healthy. So when somebody's been in those shoes and you could see how they handle the situation, I know it's a little cliche, but that just makes such a huge impact. And immediately it allayed some of the anxiety I had about leading a group of leaders, just knowing that the President's Council was there when I needed it. So probably the most impactful thing is, there's always one or two challenging things that each president faces at any given time. And I remember bringing up at least one of those issues in President's Council and walking away with 2 valid solutions. I still had to pick which one I think was the best for the chapter at the time, but I remember walking away with, saying, I've got 2 good solutions. I'll make a decision in a day from now and we'll go forward. So
cool. Right on.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine not having it.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, Dan Wilson, you back? We got you.
Am I here?
Yeah, we got you now. Go for it.
Technology. No, well, thanks again for the invite. Yeah, I guess what I learned from everything EO and the President's Council was just that experience sharing, and that knowing that you're jumping in, just like John said, you're jumping into situations where you don't really have all the answers, and to have some sort of board that you could quote unquote glom onto that has experience and they can share it with you. They might not give you the answers per se, but they can at least guide you in different experiences that maybe they've gone through similar to those, and you can kind of craft your own decision points from there. So it's unbelievably useful, and I don't think I could have survived without having the help of you. Obviously, that's why I passed it off earlier to you, because you are a rock star, and I knew you needed the runway, you wanted the runway, so I just stepped out of the way and gave it to you. But I do appreciate it.
Awesome. And anyone else who's got thanks, Dan, appreciate that. Anyone else have an experience or anything specific that came out of one of the council meetings, or a problem you were having, or you said, whether it happened at a meeting or just calling somebody up and they either an experience share or a piece of advice that they gave you that was impactful, and or what that situation was?
Yeah, for Carl, it's Scott.
Scott.
For me, I was thinking that, and some of this actually goes back to the comments you made earlier in today's call about the debacle of the debate last night. But one of the really useful things about the council for me is understanding that we've got kind of common core values through EO as an organization, and watching the degree to which our different visions have impacted the direction of the organization, right? And so I think it's fair to say that we each as presidents have had different visions for what the future would look like, or at least the path to the future would look like. And for me, far and away, the most valuable thing is having a peer group that I respect, and respect enough to let them disagree with me, and vice versa. I don't want to name names because I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but we've had some fairly strenuous disagreements on tactics or strategies, but we've never reached the point where we didn't need to maintain our general global objective, right? So as the CEO of a company, for better or worse, there are too few times, I suppose, when my people are willing to disagree with me. Whereas on a council of the type that you've crafted here, the value of a disagreement is really maybe the biggest value I get out of my own membership.
Yeah, and Julia could probably speak to this as much as anything. The thing that irritates me the most in my business is when everyone agrees with me. There's no way every idea I have is this good of an idea. I mean, there's no. Oh, Carl, brilliant. Oh, yes. We should have them all on and have a panel and ask them a whole bunch of questions. What a great idea. Now, this one happened to be a good idea. It was Julia's. It wasn't mine. But it was. But I can't stand it because I don't know if I'm actually getting real advice or guidance, or when someone's like, oh, yeah, no, good idea. No, I agree. Well, no, I don't have an opinion. Whatever. Well, of course you have an opinion. What's your opinion? And it's hard to get a no when you sit in the CEO chair. It's almost impossible to get a no. So the people are afraid to give you a no, or they are afraid of being wrong, or afraid that you'll volunteer them for something if it happens to be a good idea. So I value the no and the disagreement as much as anything. Anyone else? Any other experiences or thoughts?
So Carl,
Before we move on, Harris.
One of the things about the President's Council is it's like the ultimate sandbox if you want to experiment with ways to, try something new that you haven't tried before. Prior to even becoming president, and I've never been president of a volunteer organization like this, where I haven't paid anybody and they're supposed to follow what I say.
Right. You don't have the power of the paycheck over
I
them.
don't
Right.
have the power of anything, really, other than a vision and some sort of board that was around me, which kind of felt like I was doing the right thing. And I had no idea what that looked like coming into my year. So I felt the President's Council was pretty instrumental in just helping sort of ease into what that looks like, especially for all the questions that I had. And the other thing is, you can bounce off ideas and get 12 different perspectives, which is invaluable because those ideas are, how to run the chapter, and they've all run it before. So, and each one contributes a different type of style and a different perspective and a different approach. And, failure, you could fail without consequence, at least in this role, to some extent.
Right. So if you're worried about getting something wrong, run it past this group,
Right.
who is as likely as anybody to know if you're on the right track or the wrong track. What's the saying? All bad ideas started out as a good idea, right? All
Yeah.
good ideas didn't have to start out as a good idea. It could have been a bad idea, you got lucky, but all bad ideas started out as a good idea in your head, and nobody said anything to you, and they let you just ride out into the marketplace or in front of your team or whatever with some dumbass idea, but they just didn't have the guts to tell you it was that, and you end up getting screwed, So for sure.
And nobody holds back in this group. So.
And nobody will hold back. And so guys, so presidents, thank you. One of the things I've been talking to our clients about is that we want to build this sort of group within our client base. So this is really good. This is really good feedback. But if I may, like to go around the table a little bit, especially start with anyone who hasn't volunteered so much so far. But imagine the President's Council did not exist. Okay, it didn't exist. You haven't heard about it. We hadn't talked about it. We haven't been part of it. So just whether it's the President's Council or anything else, what specifically, with as busy as you are, what would a group have to have in order for you to dedicate the time to be a part of it, regardless of the regularity or the time? So if I were coming to you and I would say, hey guys, I'm thinking of putting together this idea called the President's Council, right? And at the time, nobody told, I didn't have anyone telling me if it was a good or bad idea, right? But if I said, I'm putting together this President's Council, if I had to do it over again, what would I have to offer you all? So, or what would it have to contain for you to say, yeah, I want to do that? I'd be willing to take time out of my schedule. I'd be willing to take time away from my family to be part of that. What would what would it have to have? If you guys should just come off mute and we'll go around. Let's see who haven't not heard from yet. So Tom Patania, what would this group have to contain if we were going to restructure it again? What would it have to have in order for you to say, yep, you got my attention, I'm in?
I think you have to have people that are somewhat on the same page and help you form a direction to what you're trying to do. So these are people that probably have skill sets you don't have, much like forming a corporation. So I think that would be one of the criteria for me.
So they'd have to have skill sets you don't have, but they're people that are in a similar situation.
Yes.
You don't want to be walking into that room being the smartest in the room or the biggest business or the most experienced, because then you become their coach, right?
Correct.
All right, cool. Rick, hey, what would we have to be doing? What would it have to contain? Who would have to be there? Where would we be going in order for this to capture your attention?
It'd have to be a safe place. I mean, more than anything, people in our positions within our companies and even our communities or anywhere we're speaking or interacting with are constantly faced, especially in today's environment, with political correctness, wordsmithing, interpretation, communication issues. And more than anything, EO for 27 years, 20 something years that I've been in it, has been a place where like-minded people are together and can always rely on it being a safe haven,
Cool.
and not to have to be concerned with that.
Great, great. And Joey, Anna, Magda, Jason, be ready. I'm going to ask you guys too, because I'd like to hear what your input is, because this is, I'm designing this for you. So take in what you're hearing from these folks, but also consider what it would be for you. Steve, you're another early president. What would this group have to contain if we were starting it all over again for you to say, yeah, you got my attention. I want to hear what you have to. I want to be part of this.
So I definitely agree with Tom and Rick, but I'll add on top of that is a level of trust needs to be maintained within that group, and that's something that takes time to build sometimes. But it needs to be a safe place. But you also have to trust the people that are in that group, that they have your best interests in mind.
Right. It's not.
I'll also say that I think Rick wins the prize for the best shirt.
Really?
What the hell's a fighting blue hen? Come on.
That's the University of Delaware. I saw that. I'm like, that reminded me that we went to the same college, university. So I appreciate that. These are the attributes: skill set, safe place, trust maintained. You got to earn it. What would some of the mechanical stuff, the logistics, would it have to be adventurous? Would we have to go see stuff? Would it be touring businesses or taking adventure, retreats? Would we be, what else would it, what are some of the other features or ingredients of something like that? Todd, what would capture your attention? What would be something that would be interesting for you? Todd, you're on mute.
I mean, everything that the guys said, I absolutely echo. As far as needing a safe space, we all understand that. I do think that physical connection is important, not just Zoom.
So, right. So you're getting together. This is not going to be some online group that wouldn't hold your attention. We're getting together
yeah.
in some aspect. We're doing that. Anyone else? So I don't want to, so just for the sake of it, you come on off mute. Is there anything else that you would say, yeah, I would want it to contain, if it contained this, like for me, I feel like I can almost never escape no matter where I'm at. Like I can, there's just too much going on at home. So I have to, not meaning at my house, but just in my home area, between family and obligations and work, and then, and other investments and things in the community that that I'm part of. So for me, getting out of my element is an important aspect for me. So anything else like that for any of you all?
I think it's, one of the things I did with EO, I took to my other association, my industry association, and put the kind of EO structure in place. So structure, organization, extremely important. The way EO has different chairs for different roles, what those roles' responsibility are, how long they take to do, what the skill sets are, and certainly planning. You want to come into a meeting and say, okay, this is what we're out to accomplish today. You've got a bunch of great minds. Let's get it done.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So so let me open it up for Anna, Joey, Jason, Magda. What else would this have to? And Jason, I know you're building a type of group. Jason owns an online flight school, so he's building a community of pilots. So and he's doing an event series. So this could be good feedback for what you're planning, Jason. But what would you guys? What would capture your attention and say, yes, I'd be willing to get on a plane for that, or I'd be willing to be part of it. And it would be compelling enough for me. What would those ingredients need to be? So Joey, Anna, you guys are on mute. Jason, you might be on mute. I can't tell yet, but.
I mean, this is Anna. A lot of what I heard, I mean, I think one of the big things, I like the whole idea of getting together physically, I mean, meeting in person, because there's so much online stuff going on right now. It's overwhelming. And there's just a connection that can be made in person. I mean, right now I'm stuck in Texas, so I'll go anywhere. But
you're not stuck in Texas. You're in Del Rio, Texas.
Yes,
there's Texas and there's Del Rio. You're in Del Rio.
I'm in Del Rio. Yeah, I've already told my husband we're going to New Jersey in February, so he doesn't have an option. But I think the other thing I really like is that just having people in my position that I can bounce back ideas off of. That to me is super important, because being in Del Rio within Texas, the country of Del Rio in Texas, like
So you want to be able to bounce ideas around. Yeah.
yeah, it's really valuable. You can feel so isolated and so lost. And just working with your team this last year, Carl, has been invaluable. I know we wouldn't be as a company where we are today if it wasn't for the feedback, for the encouragement. Because sometimes in this position, even though I have good staff and I have a supportive family, I still come to the office going, okay, how am I going to do this today? Or how am I going to make this work for even this month? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. Joey, Magda, Jason, any thoughts? Joey, you're on, we still can't hear you. You're not on mute, but we can't hear you, Mike. Yeah. Now you're muted. One more shot. Wait for it. Wait for it. Cool. We still have you guys on mute.
All right. How about now?
We got you. We got
All
you.
right. So yes, I was double booked at 2:30 Eastern, so I missed the last few minutes. But for us, in regards to meeting in person, it depends on the size of the project or contract. So an example would be yesterday, we had a preliminary kickoff call with General Mills and some of their chief scientists for research and development looking to do a project. And there was so much enthusiasm on the call, but we still just didn't get that physical connection like we need to close the deal. So we're in the final round of agencies that are considered for the project. They're going back to leadership today, but high confidence that if we were there in person, would have sealed it just by the body energy that was being, exuded on the call. So chances are it happened, but without that extra in-person touch,
it makes a difference.
Looking in the eye, 100% makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, so thanks for that feedback, guys. So we're gonna kick off the in-person version of all of this in February, but we'll continue to have these calls in this new format every other Wednesday, starting in a couple of weeks, and we're gonna have we'll have a podcast style interview in each time, and we'll be announcing what our lineup is for the rest of the season, so you guys can join in. But presidents, any other final words, thoughts, comments, something you wanted to share but couldn't get in because John Chaffee was talking too much or anything like that?
Don't be the last one. Don't be the last one on the call.
Don't be the last one on the call.
I just want to add one thing, Carl, to this. Yeah. And that is, when I was president, there was no President's Council. And I really felt like I was on an island. I didn't really know who I could go to bounce tough questions off of. And it's one of the things that I really most admire about the President's Council that you put together is that, and the reason why it's so important for me to be part of it is because I want to share the experiences that I've had with the new president, the incoming president, to make it a better global good for the entire chapter.
Right. And so nobody has to go through what you had to go through, which was, holy shit, I made this decision. Is it right? I can't talk to anybody about what I'm going through.
Right.
Yeah. Right on. Right on. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much. We're gonna wrap up. This has been invaluable. For those of you listening in on the recording, for those of you that caught part of this live, hope you enjoyed a little bit of a roundtable discussion on what it's like to be inside of one of these councils. We're going to be putting this together for our client base as well. It'll have our special 7-stage spin to it. And because we know many of you are already parts of a monthly peer-to-peer mentoring group. Many of you are already doing that. But this is something that, so if you're on this call or you come to a call like this, you're a growth-minded CEO or business leader that's looking to do more than the average business owner for sure. We're not working together if you're looking to just maintain things. We're working together because you're looking to, really catalyze your business. So, we'll make sure that it's got a special spin to it, to meet the demands of what you guys are going through. on a regular basis. So I'm sure you'll be seeing many of these presidents in the future at some point. So Misters and Madam President, even Darlene, who said she'll come on anytime, she just couldn't do it this week. Thank you for joining in. And, with Julia, with that, we'll close out the meeting. And thanks, guys, for coming on. And we'll catch up with you on the next one. Really appreciate the support.
Thanks, Carl.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Carl.
Later, everybody.
You got it.